All right, I am back, Wargamers. Welcome back to another Let's Play video. And I got a few comments from you guys in the last video, which tells me that, some of you are watching the whole video. That's really cool. That means that I'm not the only one enjoying wargaming, so that's really cool. I got a comment from excuse me, I'm gonna work on your names. Wardrobe plays World War II, telling me that I can change the settings to move basically this menu and put it in a different window. I looked at the settings, I couldn't find it, and I'm actually pretty comfortable. I like the setup here. The one thing I would like to see though is some kind of feature that allows us to show what type of phase is taking place. The same way you have a marker here that tells you the month, how the months can change, or the fortnights rather. I would like to see there be a feature where um, you can click a button and it changes the phase. So like command phase to movement phase to combat phase to supply phase, political phase, and so on. And then I got messages from Genghis Vern telling me that the French line stalled. I didn't even know that the French attacked. I thought that they didn't attack. That was my understanding, was that they were planning to attack, but they never actually decided to attack. I have to brush up on the history there a bit more. The history of the Ruhr and that Franco-German border, I know it's very complex. I know that the events leading up to World War II and Hitler's rise to power, he played a really aggressive game theory maneuver that took place that allowed him to retake parts of the Ruhr that could have led to war as early as like 1938, and instead the Allies or the French in particular hesitated, and in that hesitation, Hitler only gained more confidence in his rise to power. Eventually, he would make his move against Czechoslovakia, and then eventually the big invasion of Poland. And then really cool that you've got neoprene. I wasn't sure what neoprene was. I had to look it up, but it's like a rubber material. For those of you who are playing those like actual tabletop games, I salute you because while although it's good to play here on Vassal, Vassal's an incredible engine. Shout out to Vassal. They do a great job, and it's all free. It doesn't replace the quality of playing in person, playing over a table, the touching the wooden pieces, the quality of the maps, and so on. It's really a good experience. My experience is very limited in that. I played Europe and Golf. That was the only tabletop game I played. I never actually played Eurofront, but maybe someday in the future, we can make a video series or something like that of doing Let's Plays in person over the table. But of course, there's a lot of logistics that go into planning all of that. But I think it's worthwhile. I think war games are underrated. The video game community is huge right now when it comes to games of all types of genres, but in particular World War II games. So, flight simulators, war simulators, and so on. But those tabletop games, I think, have a level of what would you call it? A communal experience that is really hard to beat. I think it really touches in on what the game chess. I'm gonna just pull up an image here, just so you guys have something to look at. But like, chess.com, if you look at Gotham Chess and his YouTube channel, the way, the chess community has grown is top of the line. It's one of the coolest communities on earth. And there's a clear distinction in the chess community versus playing online versus playing in person. And both versions of the game are still very popular, but I find that when I play chess, my experience playing over the board against someone is very different than when I'm playing online, on the computer, on the software. Why is that? I think a lot of it has to do with the wooden pieces. Something about touching those pieces or plastic pieces. Something about touching the pieces. Something about having the presence of another person there. and you're moving pieces. The strategy, at least the way my mind works, the strategy changes and the mechanics change and so on. And so it's really interesting, really immersive. So having said that, I think we're ready to jump in. I got a setup here. It's a little different. Hope you guys find it interesting. I'm pretty much mimicking the setup that chess players do when they do their videos, and I really want to pay homage to the chess community because they're the most popular excuse me, they're the most popular board game on planet Earth, and for good reason. For good reason. It's probably the most famous board game in human history. And so I think the success of war games is going to follow a similar mechanism or a similar style, we'll say, to what we see with the chess game. Chess is essentially a type of war game when you think about it. And so, anyways, we're going to jump in and play. I don't know how long we're going to play here, but I'm going to try to keep it in kind of break up the war into like coherent chapters. That's something that I've noticed when playing these long war games is that as the game progresses, just like the war itself, you kind of start to slip into this war of attrition. And the war only escalates in intensity. There's only more active units on the board. And it's really hard to distinguish one segment or one period of the conflict from another because so much is happening all at once. But I think the Soviets do the best job at describing the war, at least from their point of view. And basically, called the Soviet Patriotic War. That's how the Russians describe it, the Great Patriotic War. And the Great Patriotic War, according to David Glantz, which is probably at least the most well-renowned Eastern Front World War II military historian that I'm aware of. If you know of any others, please, I'm very eager to learn of other military historians and of their work. But I've really focused on David Glantz the most, probably because he's American and so they break up the conflict into three distinct chapters. The chapter one is when they're basically losing the war against the Wehrmacht, against the German military. Then there's chapter two, in which they turn the tide of the war. And the chapter two phase basically begins post Stalingrad, post Battle of Stalingrad. And then the third and final phase is when the Soviets start launching their own general offensives across the entire front on a month-to-month basis and drive the German army out of former Soviet territory and eventually invade countries like Eastern Europe, Bulgaria, Romania, I believe Yugoslavia to some degree as well. Um, Also, the invasion of Poland, the Soviet conquest of Poland and then eventually the battles for East Germany. And so they do a really great job. The only problem I have with their system is that, the three phases are of entirely different scale in a sense. The third phase is of such an enormous scale compared to the first phase. The first phase is really big still. Operation Barbarossa is huge, but by 1944, the amount of active troops that you have along the front, I think, is a numbering around 10 million or more while Operation Barbarossa numbers around, give or take, I think 3 to 6 million, more or less, at any given instant in the conflict. And so this is something that I hope to model someday. But for now, we play the war game. Anyways, here's Wikipedia. Looking to see if there's anything, if they kind of talk about the three phases. I don't see anything that really sticks out that talks about the three phases, but that description of the three phases is something that I learned from David Glantz, and David Glantz puts a lot of focus on those three phases. It looks like Wikipedia does not. So, anyways, speaking of Soviets, we kind of ended the fighting with the invasion of Poland, an extremely successful German conquest of Poland. The Soviets also invaded. Poland has been partitioned, if that's the right word, between the Soviets and the Germans. Let me see here. I have a I had some kind of highlighter feature on my mouse, and I forgot to I forgot to activate it. Yeah, here it is. I'm gonna try to activate it. I think it'd be kind of useful uh, for you guys to see. Hopefully, you guys can see my mouse. You can let me know um, if you can see my mouse or not. You probably can, but I kind of just want to make sure that you can. Hmm. I don't want to spend too much time on this for the sake of the video. That's something that I could have done. Oh, there it is. That's something I could have done to prepare for the video ahead of time. But I want to keep the flow state of this video flowing as best as possible, so that it's enjoyable for everybody, and we get gameplay, we get knowledge, we get history, all that good stuff. Anyways, I've switched to a fourth person perspective, or I switched to a fourth player rather, on the Vassal engine, and you can see that the Soviets and the Germans both occupy Poland along the Curzon line, which is this gray line that you can see there. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to zoom in. There's the Curzon line, and basically both sides have occupied uh, West and East Poland respectively, and you can see the Polish border, this black line that goes all the way around, you know, right around here. That basically is um, Poland, and the Polish government is now effectively gone. It has evacuated to London, basically. So with that said, it's December 1939. We're now going to start the Soviet invasion of Finland. Now, the game, the developers added some few bonus rules for the Soviet side. They gave the Soviets, I can look up the rules. I could look up the rules. It's kind of sometimes difficult to kind of go through the rule book because it's so big, and it slows down that flow state that I was talking about. And I think compared to my last video, I kind of want to make sure that this video series uh, is distinguished in that we're not spending too much time on the rule book, but rather we are just having good gameplay. And I am gonna have to look at some of the rules every now and then. But yeah, I think I found it. Here it is. Winter War rules. It's rule 21.481. Again, a lot of rules in this game, but they all make logical sense. But there's some special abilities that the Soviets have. The Soviets, for example, their mech units gain double fire offensively. And we can look here if I pull up the player aid, and we look at the firepower of mech units. It says single fire slash double fire. The single fire is for offense, the double fire is for defense. So by default, the mech units are basically like the way I think of them is I think of them as basically mobile artillery units. They're basically anti-tank, regiments or anti-tank battalions, something like that, where they're basically able to move and deploy anti-tank units. They're not very good offensively. They just act as extra artillery for the attackers. They basically support the infantry. But for defense, they have this bonus advantage. That's where you would keep, self-propelled guns and things like that to counter any armor attacks. Um, and so they basically have changed that and they've granted the Soviets a double fire offensively. I don't understand the kind of historical context here or the historical detail that would grant the Soviets extra firepower. I would actually think the Soviets would have been reduced in combat effectiveness because they were so disorganized during the invasion. Another thing that the Soviets gained is that they gain double fire air support as well. So they gain a bunch of double fire abilities. That's probably added because the developers wanted to balance the game out. But the way we're going to play is we're not going to add any advantages to the Soviets. We're going to simply have the Soviets play as they normally play. No double fire advantages are granted, and we're going to see how it goes. I want to see a more historical winter war effectively. So let's start. I've been talking a lot. I'm going to start the log file and let's jump in. Um, all right. All right, so now we're gonna place the Soviets. I'm gonna activate. We have a bunch of Soviet HQs. We got one, two, three, four, five HQs. We got a lot of Soviet HQs. Um, there, most of them are at level two. Three of them are at level two. Technically four if you include Stavka, but Stavka is a Supreme HQ. It's a little different. We're gonna activate the Leningrad HQ. I guess I'll zoom in here, and we're gonna start this invasion of Finland. I don't think I'm going to blitz. I think we're going to take our time and try to figure out a way to grind down the Finnish forces. Um, I'm actually going to send in two infantry armies that way, one infantry unit that way. No, no, no. We'll keep it. We'll keep it balanced. And then I got a bunch of other units. So just have these units move up, like so. And then I'm also going to activate Stavka. And Stavka has supreme moves, and we're going to move these units in the north. Oh, one thing I realized um, about this setup, the Finnish are completely exposed right now. I'm going to have to do a quick modification here for the Finnish. We're going to move this unit back and move it to Oulu. Um, yeah, we're going to have to do that modification there. The reason why I modified that is because I tried to create like a perfect chess setup and uh, complete total weakness. There's this road that comes from Mordmans to Oulu, and it was wide open. And I'm trying to create like a strong historical setup, and I totally missed that. And the Soviets could have just invaded and won in one go, and we don't want that. We want to have um, combat-rich experience. So we're gonna move this unit to Petsamo. We're gonna take Petsamo. Then I'm gonna move this unit. So that's one move. Then there's a double move here because it's a road. So this thick icon here, it's gonna move to Joensuu, and then we're gonna also make a move to from Petrozavodsk to Joensuu, like so. Now, of course, if I'm playing with someone, I'm not gonna be moving pieces on the board like that. Let this be the last time I make a small modification like that. Um, because I tend to play the game where it's like I want certain outcomes to take place, and it sort of interferes with the kind of experience. Of course, it changes the gameplay significantly in subtle ways, and so I'm going to try to do my best to keep that at a minimum. I think I said that in the video last time, but I really wanted to see a rich invasion of Finland. What I also could do what I also could do is maybe not move the Finnish units. Uh, we won't move the Finnish unit to Oulu, but instead the Soviet unit's just going to march to Petsamo, and we're not going to have them go to Oulu, basically. So the Soviets had a chance there to land in Oulu and cut off the Finnish supply lines that would have extended to London, or I think it's to Berlin, and we decided not to do that. The Soviets made a historical blunder or some kind of tactical blunder or something like that, um, which would make sense. For some political reason, the Soviets prioritized going for Petsamo rather than going for Oulu. They didn't realize that the road was wide open. Who knows what the reason is? But for the sake of gameplay, we are going to I'm going to not try to move the pieces on the board like that. But we're also going to be very brutish with the Soviets, and we're just going to push forward onto Petsamo. So there's that. There's the first Soviet move. Strategic moves. We moved one, two, three, and four, like so, all pushing along the entire Finnish front. And the idea is if we can break through somewhere here on the west, or not the west, but if we can break through somewhere here in the north, then if we can take Oulu, we can then cut off the Finnish for the rest of the war. Hopefully, this is making some sense. All right. Um, airstrikes. We have air support from Stavka. We have air support from Lenin. The Leningrad HQ. We'll put an airstrike there. Put an airstrike here, and let's begin the battle. Let's begin the battles. Attacking Petsamu. The Finnish do have double fire. Um, no hits for the Finnish. No hits for the Soviets. Now battle in Joensuu. No hits from the Finnish. No hits from the Soviets. Now we got battle north of Viborg. Soviet airstrike, no hits. Finnish roll 3, no hits. Soviets roll 4, no hits. And then over here, battle for Viborg. Soviets got no hits. Finnish score 1 hit. And then no hits from the Soviets. Okay. So the finish line basically holds so far. And we'll deactivate the Soviet HQ, and that's going to sum up um, the Soviet turn um, as far as operations go. I think what I also meant to do is I meant to move up these HQs. I'm going to do that real quick. Before I deactivate this HQ, well, ooh, this is what I mean. I'm making these like small mistakes. I kind of meant to move up these HQs a bit more. I don't know why I did not do that. Dang nabbit. All right, I think we're gonna have to accept the fact that we're gonna end up with a really, really, really painful game. This game is gonna be painful, and I'm gonna be making mistakes. And unfortunately, it's gonna take away from the historical immersion, in my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Um, but for example, I meant to move up these HQs forward, and I already forgot to do that. Oopsie daisies, forgot to do that. But what's done is done. There's not much more I can do. Um, there's still a way to fix the problem, so it's not the end of the world. Okay. So that's from the Soviet side. We're now going to switch over to the Axis side, and we're going to see what the Axis are going to do. Pretty much the strategy for the Germans is to build up on the Western Front. And so we now have these extra units here. Um, units like these fortress units, these one-step infantry units. And the idea I have is to basically replace these armored units with the fortress units and try to transfer um, as many infantry units, as many armored units rather, as I can from east to west. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to activate OKH, and we're going to start by moving this fortress unit over here, located in Saarbrücken, basically in the Rhineland. And we're going to move it to to Poland. So we're going to put a rail marker on it. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 7. Oh man, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Let me see, 13. I think we'll leave it here. So that's 2 strategic moves that are spent basically on that unit. And then we'll move another one here. We go 1, 2. Oh, oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here's another one. 1, 2, 3. Um, I think actually it's only 5 when it's moving on to the no, 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 we're good. We're good. One, two, three, four, five, six. When you're transferring units on other fronts, for example, OKW is on the western front, and you're moving a unit on the eastern front, you only move it at 5 instead of the 10. But anyways, we've spent 4 strategic moves so far. Let's see, what else? What other units do I want to move around? Um, I think the last two I want to move are going to be move this infantry unit, basically replace this infantry unit and this infantry unit, this mountain corps, with these weaker infantry. And I think that's the logic I want to have. I want to look at the German reinforcements because I really want to make sure I'm stacked up on um, as many infantry units as I can on the Western Front. And so I actually don't think we need to. I don't think we need to actually move these units to the Eastern Front. I don't think we have to. Let's see. Yeah, we're gonna have to put 3 units here. That's gonna be these 3 guys, and then we got 2 more units here. 2 more. Yeah, I don't think we actually need to um, move these units to the Eastern Front. So I might move them to the Western Front, actually. I think we're gonna go ahead and do that. My original plan was to move them to the Eastern Front, but I don't think I actually have to. I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll put it there. And then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So that's 6 strategic moves by OKW. We'll deactivate OKW. Now we'll activate OKH, Oberkommando das Heer. And now we're going to move that unit. We're going to move 6 units on the Eastern Front and move them around. So the main units I want to move are the Panzer Corps, these 3 Panzer Corps. So let's see. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 2. Did I say 3? 2? Anyways, I moved 2 units strategically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. So we've moved 3 units strategically so far. And then the last 3 that I'm going to move are going to be these 3 infantry units over here. We're going to go the marker here, marker here, marker here. And just making sure the reinforcements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 infantry reinforcements we're going to get starting in February of 1940. And those 5 are going to go in East Prussia, 1 there, south of Prussia, and then I think 1 here to replace this mountain corps. I think that's the idea. And we don't have to worry about the Soviets could declare war on the Germans. If they do, the Soviets are going to have a like huge disadvantage in the long term. And so we'll see what the Soviets do. I don't think I plan as the Soviet side to declare war, which begs the question: if I do play against a player, if I do play against one of you guys who's watching these videos, if you decide to invade, my situation would be pretty bad, right? Because I have nothing protecting East Prussia. That said, East Prussia only has uh, one production point. I think I can manage losing one production point. It's not a big deal. But my point is that I'm taking a gamble here by leaving so few units in in Eastern Europe. I don't have all the hexes occupied at the present moment. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point. Anyways, strategic moves. We got three more. We're gonna move these guys to northeast Germany, and these are gonna be the units that invade Amsterdam, invade Holland. So let's just make this moves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then this guy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we got one more here. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. Okay. That's pretty good. Was that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, wait. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That was right. Cool. All right. So both field HQs have been activated. We've moved a frick ton of units to um, the Western Front. And now I think we're pretty much done with the Axis turn. You can see, my goodness, just how many units were moved. 12 units were moved altogether. A lot of units were transferred around. I'm very impressed by how many units have been moved around. Anyways, we'll stop the turn here. We'll clear the strategic movement icons, turn off the movement paths, and now we've got a pretty solid defense of Poland. Fortress units in Poland. We obviously have a few areas that are vulnerable to Soviet attack, but it is winter, so the Soviets would only be able to move up one hex. So that's the good news. But the northern flank, basically East Prussia, is very vulnerable. But if the Soviets do attack, do declare war, say on the next turn, um, we'll be able to establish a strong defensive line along the Vistula River. So I'm not too concerned uh, losing East Prussia, but I'd rather not lose East Poland, West Poland rather. And now we'll switch over to the Allied side. I think for this video, I'm not putting the turns, just because it sort of slows down the game a bit. But we're still following the same sequence of phases. Command phase, movement phase, political phase, supply phase, and so on. So yeah, Allied turn. We have a full British HQ. Um, Now I could activate this HQ and move units, but I wanted to build up this 15th Army Group HQ first, because when I send it over to France, it's actually going to cost 15. It's going to cost 15 production points to build up when it's in sea supply. And it's in sea supply if it has no major port to trace supplies from. And so right now the French don't have any major ports. They only have minor ports. So I do not want to send that unit over just yet. So we'll pass for the Western Allied turn. And then, oh, I think Before I do anything, let me see if I want to do anything with the finish. I don't think I want to do any turn with the finish at the moment. The Finnish have a pretty strong line. We do have this Mannerheim HQ. Um, I'm thinking, if we lose Viborg, we're in deep trouble. The problem is that we just don't have any reserves. We only have this sixth uh, Finnish corps, and it's like I kind of want to save that as a reserve. It's basically one Finnish division that we can send into either Viborg or Viborg Northeast. Um, but obviously, we have to do our best to hold out. I think we'll go ahead and reinforce anyways. I'm just going to reinforce anyways. So obviously that leaves us vulnerable to a Soviet amphibious invasion at Kotka. But the Soviets, if they do land in Kotka, they're not going to have any sea supplies. No supplies are going to be coming from Kotka. There's no port that they control, and they don't have any amphibious invasion sites um, or markers, amphibious invasion markers. And also, based off of our intel, you can tell that they don't have any invasion forces prepared because they would have had more than one unit stacked up at Leningrad. So it kind of makes sense that we go ahead and move that reinforcement into Viborg. So there's that. That's going to conclude the first fortnight, a very exciting fortnight in my opinion, of this month. We're now going to switch over to the second fortnight in December. This time we're going to activate the Soviet Western HQ and we're going to press the attack on Finland. So we're going to, I'm just going to stack up as much infantry as I can in Viborg, and we're going to try to break through. We only have one Soviet reserve left, so we don't really have much in the wake of reinforcements. Um, and I think what I'll go ahead and do is activate this northern HQ as well, and it can provide combat support at Joensuu. And we'll put an airstrike marker there, airstrike marker here. And now that's it. We're going all in on the Soviets, all in with the Soviets rather, and we're really trying to break through the Finnish somewhere along the front. So let's see how it goes. Um, Attacking here in the north seems kind of fruitless. Um, it seems kind of fruitless, unfortunately, because we have to roll 3 dice to score a hit because it's unsupported combat plus double defense, and this unit is just not going to break through. So there's no point of making a battle up here in the north, but there is a point of making a battle here at Joensuu. Let's see what the Soviets can do. No hits, no hits from the Finnish. Soviets roll. They scored 1 hit. They needed to score 2 hits to achieve a breakthrough, or at least destroy one of the Finnish divisions. So nothing there. Battle over here, northeast of Viborg. The main Mannerheim line is under serious pressure. The Finnish do score a hit. Soviets roll. Oh man, see if they had the double fire, they would have scored a hit there. But no hits from the Soviets. And then over here, the Finnish roll 4. Oh, well, actually, my mistake. We should do the Soviet airstrike first. So they roll 2, no hits. Then the Finnish roll 2. That's going to be 1 hit plus another 2 more. The Finnish do score another hit. The Soviets now have 11 dice to roll. They should be able to score 2 hits here. Nice. They score a hit, and boom, they weaken the Finnish line by 1 division. All right. Right. So the Soviets casualties so far, the Soviets have lost 3 units. Presumably, we're actually dealing with relatively low Soviet casualties. At 28,000 troops, I think is the average of each Soviet step. I don't know how to measure casualties in this game. I don't know if combat power represents casualties necessarily, or if they represent like the loss of equipment. And also, I'm wondering if each year the casualty rate changes. because the Soviet casualties were like at 500,000 historically. But right now we've only lost three steps of Soviet units, but we have spent a lot on HQs. So according to my calculations, Soviet casualties at the moment are only at 70, give or take about 75,000 casualties. But I guess each HQ, maybe also counts as some casualties as well, the loss of logistics and so on. We spent four HQs so far, so we'll just add another 28,000 per HQ. We'll make it just 25 just to keep it simple. That's another 100,000. So presumably the Soviets are at about somewhere between 75,000 to 175,000 casualties, according to my calculations. But I know that my figures are off, but maybe not. There's that. Soviet turn is done. Uh, Less exciting than the last turn. Now, there's nothing that I can do with the finish. There's literally nothing I can do with the finish. I have no reinforcements. Um, I think what I might do is pull back this fifth uh, Finnish core and try to reinforce Viborg, just because that's where the main Soviet attack is taking place, and just to achieve a more favorable ratio of Finnish to Soviet strengths. The only problem is that I am risking weakening the this northern sector here, and it's only two steps. So I don't know. I'm gonna pull it back. I'm just gonna pull it back. I'm gonna drink some coffee. Delicious. I'm drinking my coffee without any. I don't put any sugar in my coffee. Um, so a little bitter, but I added some milk, so the milk does add some sweetness to it. But I could have added more. Still, the coffee is mentally stimulating and, in its own way, my humble opinion, nutritious. In its own way. Maybe I'm just making that up. My point is, coffee's coffee's doing what it's gonna do. We pull back. We only have one freaking, only one, whatchamacallit, command point left with the HQ, but we do have a reserve of one division. I think that is pretty strategically sound. But it does, I mean, the Mannerheim line, the simple point is that it's just very weak. Two divisions to the center, north center, three divisions to the south, two divisions over here, one division over there. It's a very weak line. No moves from Germany that we're going to do. We pretty much transferred all our units uh, to the Western Front, um, and I don't want to expend them any more than necessary. And then we're going to pass on the Allied forces since the situation is still the same as earlier. But now we'll switch over to the next fortnight. We're now in January, and we'll now do Allied production first, then German production, Axis production, and then Soviet production. And then we'll kind of, the way I'm doing it is sort of a cyclical cycle of all the player turns, so that, when this is how you would play by email. And basically, when it's the Soviet turn again, they get to initiate their moves first. So it kind of allows you to have the longest log files possible, is the easiest way to put it, per player. But obviously, when you're doing these turns, you kind of do them all at the same time. Everybody would do production at the same time. Everybody would do production at the same time. So yeah, we'll now do Allied production. Allied production is now at 29. It's at 29 production. They gain 5. We can confirm that if you look at the player aid. You can see here, winter 1939, the Allied production is the penalty, or what is it? The uh, I don't know what the word would be, but it's minus 20 in September 1939, and it goes up from minus 20 to minus 15. And it's not until summer 1941 that the penalties are reduced to zero, meaning suggesting that Allied production doesn't reach full peak until summer 1941. And that's probably primarily to the British, right? None of these nations were prepared for war fully when the war began, and so it took a while for the economies to catch up. And I think that's what these negative values effectively represent. I mean, look at Germany. It's not until summer 1944 that the German economy is basically at full capacity, ready to um, have no economic penalties taking place. So I think they did a good job there of just reflecting. They did it in a linear fashion. I think historically it was nonlinear, but they did a good job of just showing how a lot of these economies were not prepared for war. And you can see for the Allies, they started gaining significant production after summer 1941, and that's because the United States joins the war. And by summer 1944, they have 60 plus production points than they started off with summer 1941, and that's because of the U.S. production. So significant boost there. And then the Soviets kind of have the same effect as well. It's not until summer 1942 that their economy is fully prepared for war, and then the eight that they gain after that, it's due to Lend-Lease. So something like this, something like this. Allied production is at 29. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'll build up this HQ. This unit is militia units. It costs 3. Now we're down to 26. This is going to cost 10. So then now we're down to 16. And let's see, we're going to spend it another on the French. We'll build up this infantry unit here. Now we're down to 12. And then we'll build up these two. I actually think we should build up infantry. Um, down to 16. Let's see. Let's also check for any allied reinforcements. We had a reinforcement as early as November that I forgot to set up. We're now in January, so we do gain more reinforcements. Put that unit there as well. You can put 2 reinforcements on larger areas, like London, larger cities. Um, I think we'll just build up these 2 mech units here. Go ahead, build those units up to full strength. I think I'm going to leave most of the British units in Britain at level 2, level 2 or level 3, and I want obviously all the units in France at level 4 at full strength if I can. So yeah, that concludes the British and French production. We'll now switch over to the German side. German production is at 45. Uh, yeah, it's at 45. So we'll go ahead and build up this infantry, this mountain corps, which costs 5. That leaves us with 40. These two cost 10 apiece. So now we're down to 20. And I think the remaining 20 I'm going to spend it on infantry. Each infantry costs 4. So 4 by 5, that's going to be 20. So I can build up 5 infantry units. So I'm doing the math really fast here, by the way, but for the sake of flow, I think you think my audience is quite intelligent. You guys are quite bright, so I'm pretty sure this is like, cakewalk to most of you. But for me, this doing the math can still be pricey, to put it lightly. So I personally like to take my time a little bit more when it comes to explaining calculation. There's obviously a calculation side to every war game, and that's what we do, right? We're not just pure historians. We're trying to quantify history in a sense. We're trying to analyze history. We're trying to understand strategy to history, and quantifying history is valuable. It's a useful tool in the art of military history, basically, or in the art of um, uh, military science in a sense. So, um, yeah, like I say, 4 by 5 is 20, meaning I can build up five infantry units, five infantry steps, because each step costs four. I can verify that real quick by looking at the unit data table, which is infantry access cost. It's four per step. Boom. Okay, so that's one there. I'll go ahead and build this guy up. Two. I think I'm going to build up these weaker units. Um, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to build up these weaker units. Two, three, and then let's see here. I'll build up these two guys here. Four. Oh, and this one here. Five, like so. Yeah. And we're just going to keep building up and building up our infantry. We want to have as much infantry as possible. The historical setup says that there's 76 infantry steps on the for the German setup in the Battle of France. I kind of try to follow the historical setup as close as possible. So let's see here. You can look at the assault on France 1940 scenario. You could look at the axis table here, and you can see for the infantry it is 76 steps. They call them CVs, command value. So that's 76. So if you do the math, oh, and there's also 21 infantry units altogether. So if we count how many infantry units we have right now on the Western Front, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. We have 18. 18 times 4 is 72, meaning that we're missing just one more infantry unit is all we need, which I don't know where I'm going to get that infantry unit from, frankly. If I look at the reinforcement table, I don't think we're getting. Oh, we also have some reinforcements here to set up. Very important that I do that. But like I said, these five infantry units are going to be sent to the Eastern Front. Oh, we also have this Danish unit here. So, yeah. And my math isn't 100% right because technically this unit here is level 3, not level 4. So I have 71 maximum plus 3 here. That's going to be 74 max um, that I have on the Western Front, which is pretty close. Pretty close. I'm going to put this HQ unit here and set it up in Rostock. And then this unit here, I think I'm also going to put, let's see, I think I'm going to put it here in Hamburg. I think that's what I want. No. We already have two infantry units there. They're pretty good. Um, trying to think here. I don't think it really matters too much actually where I put this unit. Uh, I think I want to move this mountain corps over here to Rostock because we're gonna invade Norway, and it's like I want a mountain unit at Oslo and I want a mountain unit at Narvik. That's the game plan. This one is gonna be sent to Narvik. It's long range, and then this one here. I think I want it to be a mountain corps, and then these two other units, they're gonna be going for Trondheim and Bergen. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there. I need to move this mountain core over to Rostock though. That's what I need to change. Um, yeah. Okay. I think. Ooh, I gotta make sure I have a sound strategy here for the invasion. Um, yeah, this setup seems a little strange if you ask me. Um, Because when the mountain units invade Norway, and I can pull up the rule book on this, but they gain double fire in the northern front, and the northern front includes Norway and Sweden. but for whatever reason, the southern half of Finland here is not part of the northern front. It's part of the eastern front here. This is the only part that's part of the eastern front. But Norway and Sweden are part of the northern front. And these units have double fire, and I want to make sure I have a double fire unit attacking Oslo, the capital, when it comes to conquering Norway. And then obviously I want a mountain unit attacking Narvik as well. So that setup is fine, but I'm going to have to do a modification here with this mountain unit. The problem I have is just the timing of strategic moves, because right now I don't really have many units to move on the Eastern Front. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out the best strategy there. But for now, we're just gonna leave it at there. But I have to take note of that. I gotta move this unit over to Rostov. Yeah. Okay. Oh, finished production as well. Finished production right now is at 3. Uh, it's at 3, I believe. Or no, it's at 2 because of peacetime. They don't have enough to build up anything. So we're just gonna save the finished production for the next turn. So I'm gonna get a marker here, a black marker. We'll put it for February, and we'll call this finish production, and it's gonna be 2 production points. And we're just gonna save that for the next turn. You can do that. You can save all your production if you want. All right, and now for the Soviets. The Soviets are at 18 production. And the question is what do the Soviets want to build up? Ideally, we build up more HQs. That's what I'm thinking. Um, Ideally, we build up more HQs. The problem is that HQs are expensive. They're very pricey. They cost 20 production points at the present moment for the Soviets. Oh, and I'm also forgetting the diplomatic phase for the Allies. Um, we're going to do a rule which creates a Finnish relief force. Um, Finnish relief, which basically affects the situation with Finland in particular, or excuse me, with Norway. Um, and I can pull up the diplomacy phase there for you. Um, Axis diplomacy, we're looking at allied diplomacy. It's called FR Finnish relief. Basically, the requirements, the preconditions, you need winter war to take place. And then it's always activated. You don't need any die roll to do so. And basically, what happens is that Allied Northern Front brigade groups have reduced Northern Front acclimatization and need no Arctic maintenance. So you basically have special units that operate in the Northern Front, and these units, um, when they're operating in the Northern Front, do not suffer acclimatization effects. Um, and so these units have these blue icons. That's what these blue V's represent, or just the blue icons in general. The blue icons mean that they belong in the Northern Front and they don't suffer acclimatization. They don't suffer any kind of penalty. If you wanted to send additional reinforcements into the Northern Front, those units are going to suffer from acclimatization. Um, all units that are actually sent into the Northern Front suffer from acclimatization, but there's another rule called Arctic maintenance, which you have to spend 5 production points every single production turn um, for a unit that doesn't belong there, that's being there. So it's a balancing mechanism, so that when you decide to send additional reinforcements then greater than the historical setup, you basically are penalized logistically. You can, and this rule is obviously uh, more relevant in the Mediterranean front, right? If you're playing as the Axis, let's say, and you want to send in a Panzer army rather than a Panzer Corps into the Mediterranean front, the Panzer army would be comprised of several corps. You absolutely can. There's nothing that's stopping you from doing that. The caveat or the hindrance or The slight penalty that comes into effect is that you have to spend a lot more on maintenance, something called Arctic maintenance, or I think it's called Mediterranean maintenance, or North Mediterranean front maintenance, desert maintenance, I think is what it's called. But they basically play the same thing. You have to spend 5 production points, which is the equivalent of a cadre, a step, the equivalent cost of a division every single month to keep that formation from suffering any kind of supply penalty or supply loss or being put out of supplies. I hope that makes some sense. I'm not going into like the technical detail too much. I'm just kind of giving you a general overview, a general kind of intuitive description of how the rule works rather than going into the rule book. But that's my understanding of the rule. And that's kind of like the significance of the rule is basically you can send 3 Panzer armies if you want into either the Northern Front or the Mediterranean Front. The only caveat is that you have to pay significantly larger amounts of production points to achieve that, and that is important because um, it kind of like this game allows you to explore alternatives in an operationally insightful way, but they also add the level of detail that basically lets you know you can do it, but understand there's additional costs to that, and there's an incentive for not doing that, not doing it more than the historical setup, and that's because there's a reason for why they only sent limited amount of troops to either the Northern Front or Mediterranean Front, and it's because it was logistically daunting to send additional reinforcements. You would need specialized units to send into those fronts. One thing I don't understand that this game doesn't do is why don't you have the ability to create those specialized units? The Germans definitely had the ability to build more than one Africa Corps. The Africa Corps does not suffer from the penalties of desert maintenance, just like the blue V icon that you see here. You're going to see an orange icon rather in the Mediterranean front for the Mediterranean units, and they could have very 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 easily have built several desert corps. They could have built a desert army if they wanted to. So there's definitely room for adaptability here. But I know a game like Hearts of Iron allows you to build your own divisions. I don't know if they take terrain in effect as much as this game does, but I know that you're able to customize your own divisions in that game. So maybe in the future there could be a game that sort of incorporates some of these details in a different way, or in a more historically enriching way. Not to undermine the quality of this game, because this game is a great job, but we're simply trying to expand the detail of wargaming. So there's that. Um, Anyways, Soviet side is done with the production. Um, well, we haven't actually started the Soviet production. I'm trying to figure out what to build. 18 production points is not a whole lot. I'm thinking of saving the production so that next turn we have 36 production points, and then we can build up an HQ, and then we can, with the 16 remaining, we can maybe build up these units. These units are going to they normally cost 6 apiece, but now they're going to cost 12 apiece because they are in a contested area. And in contested areas, which are different than hexes, you're able to build up the units even if they're contested. Um, but they cost double the cost. So building up one of these units would cost 12. And then I'm thinking about actually transferring a reinforcement, one of these units over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, we could. We could. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and save the Soviet production. There's not a whole lot to build. There's not a whole lot to build. Let me see here. April, no reinforcements. But we'll put over here, finish sign. And this is going to be Soviet production. It's kind of obvious because it's red. We'll just do 18 pp plus and put it there for February. And that's that. No Soviet additional reinforcements. Oof. So I think what I'm also going to do, kind of a hard move to make because I need reinforcements over here. Oh, I could also move up this southern HQ. Oh, that's actually not a bad idea. Yeah, I think we're going to transfer this HQ over to the north. We also need like ground troops. Our troops all have taken some hits. And like I need these units at full strength if I want to achieve a breakthrough. So kind of a gamble. I think I'm gonna wait until next turn to move up any additional reinforcements. Stavka's only a level 2, so I can only move 2 units, and I think this unit's so far away it's gonna take 2 supreme moves to get it there, meaning that we won't have any infantry reinforcements on the next turn. Um, yeah, so I guess the only thing to do really is just to move this mech unit into here and attack. Just keep on attacking. This unit is out of range. It does not have the command range. These dash lines, these thin dash lines are 2 hexes away. And all this can be read, by the way, in all these rules with the hexes, with excuse me, the areas can be read in section 19, uh, called areas. I'll just, I think it's section 18 rather. Map edge areas. There's districts, there's regions. Districts are little circles. Regions are bigger than the big squares, and all this can be read there. But short rail routes, long rail routes, um, road routes, same thing. Long route versus short route. But basically, the short routes are 2 hexes away. So we had command range earlier because this was at level 2. Now it's not, it has no range. It has no command ability, command support. It's only a level 1, and this in range, it needs to be a level 2. So there's that. Main attack is going to take place at Viborg. Um, that's where all our units are stacked up, and so that's where I want to break through the most. That's our greatest chances of success. But we'll continue attacking everywhere else as well. Everywhere except for Petsamo. So we'll attack Joensuu. No hits from the finish. So we score 1 hit, but they needed to score 3, which is pretty low probability, right? 1 in 6 chance for every die roll. Um, so if you want to score 3 hits, you need 18 dice, basically. 1 in 6 chance. Um, you need 18 dice to score for that to be 3. 18 divided by 6 is 3. That's basic probability, which is complicated. Um, but that's my understanding of probability. Um, here's on the north, Battle of Viborg, northeast of Viborg. Finish our level 2. They score 1 hit. Very nice. Put it on the infantry. Now we have 7 dice. We should be able to score 1 hit, but we need to score 2 because it is double defense because of the forest terrain. Double defense means you have to score twice the amount of hits. So the chances of us scoring 2 hits is pretty low. Oh, but we do. Look at that. Boom. That's what I'm saying. Like, the Soviets have a very strong chance of winning this campaign. They just need to break through in one sector, and then the whole front will collapse. Now Battle of Viborg. That was the airstrike. No hits. Finish roll 3 dice. They scored hits. Very nice. Now we have 10 dice to roll. We have a decent chance of scoring 2 hits. Let's see. There we go. Look at that. That's what I'm saying. The Soviets kicked butt in the winter campaign. We're in January, and the Soviets are very close to breaking through. Very close to breaking through. They just scored 2 hits, and that was critical against the Finnish. Did I roll? Yeah, I did roll the Finnish defense. All right, we're going to switch over to now the Finnish side. And the Finnish are at their breaking point, basically. Yeah, we're going to activate this Mannerheim HQ. We're going to send this reinforcement into Viborg. We need to, or northeast of Viborg, rather. But basically, the Finnish had what? Uh, like 6 divisions defending. Now they're down to 4, pretty much. So significant loss. They have 4 divisions facing off. Um, the Soviet structure of divisions is different than the Western Allied, the Western, than basically the European standards of divisions. The Russians do it a little bit differently. Their divisions are smaller. Everything's kind of scaled down by 1. So a Russian division is pretty much the equivalent to a German or Finnish regiment. A Russian corps is the equivalent to a Finnish or German division, if that makes sense. Um, so, and I could probably show a diagram in the future. I actually do have another channel called War II Cliodynamics that is meant to be a channel dedicated to exploring World War II history using some kind of mathematical modeling. And it's a very young channel. I only have one video uploaded at the moment, and I basically am there just studying. But we do take a deep dive into David Glantz's work. So maybe I'll post a link on a video on that. Yeah, I'll go ahead and post a link, but it's a very young channel. But the idea is, it takes a lot of effort to study World War II from a military perspective. Study any war for that matter, from a military perspective, military science or military history. And the point I'm trying to make is that a Russian division equals a Finnish corps. Um, oops. A Russian corps equals a Finnish division. And so these steps, these Soviet steps, are actually the easiest way to think about them is that they represent Russian corps. That's actually the easiest way to think about it. So if you look at how strong the Soviet army is right now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 10 Russian corps. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Uh, so about 17 Russian corps. If each Russian corps is about 2 to 3 divisions, we'll just round it up to 3 divisions. You're looking at about 51 Russian divisions versus 4 Finnish divisions. So, I mean, that's mind blowing, right? I mean, this is an estimation. This isn't 100% accurate. This is kind of the theory of it and not the actual practice of it. I could try to go on Wikipedia and look up the Winter War. I know I'm talking fast here too. Hopefully you guys are able to follow what I'm saying. Like I say, you guys are super bright, so I think you guys are pretty much we're on the same page more or less. I think I'm pretty sure you guys have the potential to understand this better than I do. Um, because all the war gamers I've played against are pretty much they're brilliant minds in their own ways. They're brilliant players. Um, but the point I'm trying to make is that the problem with Wikipedia is that they give you the historical insight of the conflict from the artistic perspective. They tell you the kind of the art of war in a sense, and you get a deep understanding, a deep historically rich understanding of the art of war and the history of war through the Wikipedia page. But when it comes to the science of war, this is where they seem to the data and the information is a bit more cumbersome to find. It's a little bit clunkier to find the data. And so maybe this is a question that we should ask ChatGPT. I don't know how good AI is when it comes to finding historical information. Plus, my Wi-Fi is really slow. You need a really good Wi-Fi to run ChatGPT. I might just do it on my phone. Here, let me see. Okay, here we go. How many Soviet corps were in the invasion of Finland 1939 Winter War? It might be able to give us a pretty decent estimation. I don't think the figures are 100% accurate, but I think it's going to be a pretty in the ballpark, in the ballpark of information. Let's see what it says. So I'm guessing 51 divisions, 50 or 51, yeah, 51 Russian divisions in the south, 17 Russian corps, plus another one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. So 20. I would count. I personally, based off of this game, I would estimate there would be 23 Russian corps. Let's see what it says. The main Soviet committed at the start, the Seventh Army, right, which is over here. There it is. The Eighth Army, not being shown here. We don't have that with the Ninth Army. Oh my gosh. Look at that. It says total only about 9 corps at the start of the invasion. No wonder they were unprepared. Um, okay, only 9 corps at the start. Oh my goodness. And I calculated there 23 corps. Yeah, give the full order of battle for all Soviet armies in the Winter War. So right now, what this is suggesting is that our invasion force is almost more than twice the size of the historical Soviet invasion force. And now thinking about those Russian advantages, yeah, I can see why, the Russians must have felt very confident that they could have broken through with all those double fire armored units that they had. But no, in our game, we're not doing that. This is all super interesting. I find it fascinating. Um, And if you, I guess, I gotta be very hesitant, very, very careful with asking for suggestions on additional war games, just because of how much time and energy it takes to get into them. I think the best, the most practical solution would be that in the future, you know, I meet some of you in person, and we play a game in person. And if you have a much more advanced war game to show me, we can spend a whole weekend, learning the rules, getting immersed, and kind of doing something to the equivalent of what Warhammer players do, Warhammer 40K players do, and like really just really just set aside the time and the quality time to learn to learn. But anyways, here's the initial forces. 19th Rifle Corps, 50th Rifle Corps, 10th Rifle Corps. That's 1, 2, 3 Corps. Another 2 more corps over here. This is part of the. Okay, the reinforcements. Uh, so that's the that. So hold on. How many corps was that? One, two, three, 4, 5 corps. Okay. Plus, there's all these like brigades, 18 corps elements, large artillery reinforcements. Um, so that's five, and then six, seven. I guess I'll count this as another corps, or maybe like another division. Uh, 7, 8. I'm counting about 8 initial forces. This might be like 9, just a couple divisions and some regiments. 15th Army has another corps. That's 10. 13th Army, 11. I think so far with all these extra units, I will count that as another corps. So like 12, maybe 12, 13. So about 13 corps altogether, max. Max. So about 13 corps. And we have 23 corps. So one of two things. Either my model is wrong and my modeling system is inaccurate, or two, we may just have to accept the fact that my invasion force is of a very different structure than the historical invasion force, which is another real possibility. And I'm leaning towards the latter a bit more. I think that makes a bit more sense. That the latter, we just have a different invasion structure. Um, yeah. All right. So we were trying to be historical, but I don't think we are. We've oversaturated the front line with Soviet forces, and then we're breaking through. It's paying off. I mean, it's paying off. Now, I said that each Soviet step is about 28,000 troops, right? And I did this calculation when I played Operation Barbarossa, and a cadre is the level one step. It's the weakest step, and it costs double the production. So if we look at the player aid, you can see that the cadres are twice the cost for the Allies or for the Soviets. You can see here, um, from 8 to 18, from 4 to 8, from 3 to 6, from 5 to 10, so on and so forth. The Germans are a little bit cheaper. It's about 1.5 times the cost, suggesting that their cadres are simply larger. And so, taking that into consideration, let's count how many, assuming the cadres are double the cost, let's count how many steps do we have total here. So this would be one, two, three, because the cadre is double. So that's one plus this cadre, which is one and two. So that's one plus two is three. Same thing here, four, five, six. This is going to be four because it's one, two, three, four. So we're at 14, or no, excuse me, we're at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. So that's 34. I count 34 steps, including the cadre, which are double the cost, double the manpower. And I said each one is 28,000 troops, right? It's a corps. And a corps is comprised of about two to three Russian divisions, and Russian divisions are on average about 5 to say 10,000 troops. So yeah, you take an average there, an average, let's say, at full strength too, by the way. Um, let's say Russian divisions are 10,000. 10,000 times three, you're looking at 30,000 troops, right? If each division is 9,000, you're looking at 27,000 troops for each corps. But as the casualties mount, historically, the Soviet divisions went down as low as 5,000 troops. So that means a corps would be 15,000 troops. So, anyways, I just want to do all this to calculate how much manpower we have total right now. And we have 952,000. And if we look at the invasion of Finland, they went to war, and we look at how many Soviet troops were available during the invasion, the strength is actually lower than what we had historically. 425,000 to 760,000 Soviet troops. And we have a much, much larger formation, so the figures are making sense. This is suggesting that our invasion force is simply larger than the historical. If the Soviet historical initial strength was at 425,000, our initial strength was a little bit more than that. I mean, we initially attacked with one, two, three, four, five, six corps, right? So let's count that. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, um, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I'm counting this corps here, which is at 4, plus the cadre is 1, so that's 20 total. And then I think we attacked with this mech unit, which would be 4 step, including the cadre, which is double. So that's 24 steps altogether. Okay. So let's see, 24 is what our initial strength was. 672,000 troops, which may be what the Soviets invaded with historically, right? 672,000 troops, and it does fit within this range. It's kind of like the average. In fact, what is the average between what is the average between 425,000 and 760,000? Let's see. Let's find out. I mean, I gotta take an average, right? I mean, it's a basic statistics 101. 592. Okay, so we're a little bit more than the average. And I mean, if you remove, if we attack with weaker forces, which to me is insane, but the Soviets may have done it. They attacked with weaker forces. Let's reduce this by like 2 corps, um, 616,000. That's pretty close to 592,000. I think they attacked with 21 steps, in fact. You're looking at 588,000 versus 592,000. So all I'm getting from this is that if we were to play this game the way the Soviets played the game historically, the Soviets were absolutely hubristic. Is hubristic the right word? Absolutely hubris. The way they attack with effectively equivalent combat power against the Finnish. They didn't have a combat power advantage. They were attacking with the same number of steps as the Finnish forces were. Now let's calculate how large the Finnish side was to make sure the numbers are pretty consistent. The Finnish have one, two, remember the cadres are at 1.5. So let's see. It's going to be 1.5 plus 2.5 plus, I got to look at the original setup here. Here we go. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to calculate all this here. 1.5 plus, I think that's 3.5? 3.5? 1, 2, 3, yeah, 3.5 plus 2.5 plus another 2.5 plus another 1.5, another 1.5. I'm simply calculating just all these units, presuming that the cadres are at 1.5. And then this militia unit will also consider that as, we'll just do it count as one. Um, and I think at least for the Germans on the Eastern Front, their strength is at 22,000, what I calculated. So that would suggest that the Finnish army is at 308,000 troops. And let's look how big the Finnish strength was. Oh my goodness. It is between 300,000 and 340,000. I mean, those calculations are pretty freaking good, if you ask me. Um, so yeah, basically the Soviets attacked with the same, more or less the same numbers as the Finnish were defending. And it's like no wonder they didn't win. I'm beginning to question this idea that the Soviet fighting capability was of low quality. I think that, I mean, I've played games like Gates of Hell, and I'll tell you, man, playing Gates of Hell, the Finnish defense is really hard to do. The Soviets have massive artillery. Oh, wow. Okay, wow. That's not what I mean. Gates of Hell, World War II. There we go. This game, this beautiful, beautiful real-time strategy game, Gates of Hell. I played it, and I can tell you, man, even playing on normal difficulty, the Finnish defense is really hard to do. You have to have your A game to be able to defend with a finish. Because the Soviets, I mean, at the end of the day, they still got PPS H-41s. They still have tanks. I don't care how bad their tanks are. Tanks are tanks. And tanks are strong. And tanks can shoot your infantry, and suppress your infantry, and so on. So my point is, right now, that I'm beginning to question this idea that the Soviet fighting capability was of really bad quality, and I'm starting to believe that the Soviets simply just had really bad logistics. Number one, number two, the Finnish had incredible defense. Point blank period. The Finnish had incredible defense, and I think that played a really big role in um, and their ability to succeed on the fighting in the combat. So, anyways, we're gonna finish up the Finnish turn here, and I'm gonna reinforce the Mannerheim line. We have 4 divisions left, or technically, 4 times 1.5 is 6. So we have the equivalent of 6 Finnish divisions left defending um, the front line, the Mannerheim line, and that's the equivalent of let's see, 132,000 troops. And the Soviets over here, let's see, 4, 8, 14, 14, 20, 24. 24. So the Finnish have 132,000 troops. 24 times 28, we said. 672,000. So the Finnish are outnumbered like 4 to 1 right now. They're outnumbered 4 to 1 in manpower. And it's like, yeah, no wonder the Finnish are losing right now. Anyways, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, there's still a chance that the Soviets cannot score good hits. We had some pretty good Soviet dice rolls that took place there. But can the Soviets break through? Yes or no? We will see. The fighting is not over yet. So there's that. Now onto the German turn. Do I want to do any moves? Strategic moves? Not right now. Let's see. German reinforcements. I think on the next turn, I'll do some more supreme moves. Um, and I know we'll invade. Okay, I think we'll wait until March to do the supreme moves. So we'll pass for the Germans. Nothing to do there. And then we are going to go ahead and activate the British Supreme HQ. I guess this AF stands for Allied Force. And we have 4 supreme moves. And so what we're going to do is we're going to move this HQ over to Le Havre. We're going to move this unit by rail. And we're going to put it right here in Pas-de-Calais. Right there. This unit also in Pas-de-Calais. So that's 3 supreme moves. 1, 2, 3. Got 1 more left. I think I'm gonna go. Okay, you know what? We're gonna cancel. I'm gonna cancel the last move. It's kind of we don't need to move it to the front. It can stay in Le Havre. So we did 1, 2, and then I'm gonna go ahead and move this unit to Ipswich, and then we're gonna move our HQ this 21st to London. Like so. And the reason why is because we're gonna have it operate against in Norway. I want to have a Norwegian expeditionary force ready, and it's going to operate from London. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, that's that. Um, that's that. All right, next fortnight. Back to the Soviets. All right, so the Soviets only have 2 HQs left. I think I'm feeling pretty confident with the Soviets. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to activate this Baltic HQ and we're going to continue attacking. Swap these guys out. Yeah, we're just going to just launch another attack. Put the pressure on the Finnish. All right. Let's see here. We'll start with the battle on Joensuu. Finnish score 1 hit. 4 dice. We need to score 3 hits. Very unlikely. We scored 1 hit. Okay. We'll go ahead and do the battle northeast of Viborg. Finish roll 2. They score another hit. Very nice. Soviets roll 3 dice, 3 sets of dice, 3 sets of die, or 1 set of 3 die, rather, and we score. So we roll 6 dice, score no hit. Excuse me. Scored no hits. All right. Then we'll do the battle over here. Ooh, we definitely need more HQs. Airstrike. Here we go. No hits. Finish roll 2. They score 1 hit. Oh man. Now the Soviets only have 9 dice, and we need to score 2 hits to break through. Let's see if they can do it. Ooh, and they do. Very nice. All right. So now the Finnish are at their breaking point. The Finnish are at their breaking point right now. This is not good. This is not looking good for the Finnish. This is not looking good for the Finnish at all. Oh, okay. We will now switch over to the Finnish. So now the Finnish, the line is really weak. Viborg is the most critical place to defend, and we only have one division left to defend against the Soviets. Chances of the Soviets breaking through is very, very, very high. And so I'm thinking right now the Finnish should surrender or offer a conditional surrender at this point in the game. Um, yeah, I'm thinking this is the most logical choice to do. I can look at the Winter War rules, and it's like it might be time to surrender. It may be that time. Soviets can accept armistice. Um, it says once per game during the Axis politics, basically at the end of the Axis turn. And right now we're not doing any command phase. We have no HQs, no movement phase, nothing of that sort. Um, Once per turn, the Axis player can request Finnish armistice and negotiate a settlement of the Winter War. The Soviet player must immediately either accept or reject. And I'm thinking at this point, the Soviets have played their hand quite well. We can calculate the Soviet casualties. I think the Soviet casualties, I mean, pretty much every unit suffered a hit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Soviets, let's see how much casualties the Soviets. The Soviets suffered 224,000 casualties, according to our calculation, which is less than the historical setup, which was about, I think it was about 500,000. Actually, no. The Soviet casualties are about the same. A little bit more, actually, historically. 321,000 to 381,000. Yeah. So Soviets suffered about 2/3 of the historical casualties, give or take. And the Finnish, let's see how many casualties did the Finnish sustain? We lost an entire group, an entire corps, plus one, two, I think three. Yeah, I think one, two, let's see, one, two, three, 4.5, I think, is what the Finnish suffered. About 100,000 casualties. Let's see. Oh, 70,000 casualties. All right. So the Finnish suffered about, what is that? 100,000 divided by 70. Okay, so they suffered about 40% more casualties than they did historically. The Soviets suffered about um, 2/3 times the historical casualties, so about 60 to 70% of the historical casualties. So, in other words, the Soviets performed better in this historical scenario than in this gaming scenario than the historical scenario, and it's largely because they had numerical superiority from the get-go. I think that's the main reason why. They had a notable historical, a notable numerical superiority from the beginning. Like I said before, they had significantly greater numbers of core to attack than the historical scenario. And so with that, I think we're gonna offer a Finnish armistice. I think the Soviets are gonna accept that armistice. Um, the Soviets, if they don't, what are the consequences if the Soviets don't? Well, they're going to have to conquer all of Finland. And although conquering Finland does gain the Soviets a bit more production, right? They gain Petsamo and Helsinki, 2 production points per month. Keep in mind that during peacetime production, it's at 1/3 the cost. So they gain like 1 production point basically. Um, the main reason why we're not going to um, the main reason why we're not going to conquer Finland is because the Germans can get Sweden to join the war if that happens. Let's see here. I'm going to look at the Axis diplomatic events, and Sweden joins Axis. Um, this is the precondition is that the Soviets reject the Finnish armistice, and so if that happens, there is a 1 in 3 chance, right? A die roll of 1 or 2 that the Axis gains Sweden. And if that happens, the Axis production goes up by 6 production points. Um, or I think it goes up by 2 production points. No, it goes up by 6 production points altogether. Um, and that's going to be a significant boost to the Axis war economy. And I think the Soviets are playing the long game strategy of not granting the Axis any economic advantage, right? I don't think that's the way Stalin would do it historically. I think Stalin, if given the opportunity, would conquer Finland. But at this point in the fighting, well, let's switch over to the Soviet side before we decide to accept that armistice. I mean, if the Soviets feel confident that they can break through, then they should probably continue the invasion, right? Um, it's just going to be logistically more costly. The Soviets are going to have to spend probably they're going to have to spend another HQ or two to break through. So that's 20 to 40 production points just to break through. And then they're going to have to spend another amount to then penetrate Finnish territory and actually make their way into Finland and cut off Helsinki, right? Um, so we're looking at 20 to 40 production points at breaking through, plus another 20 to get to Lati. Um, and then at that point, um, we just have to cut off Helsinki from Oulu, basically. Um, it's an interesting proposition, but I'm looking at what 20 to 40 to break through, plus another 20 to get to Lati, plus another 20 to then push further. We're looking at about 80 production points to spend right now. And I'm thinking those 80 production points are better spent rather than spending them to break through and conquer Finland. We can save those production points and use them to build up our ground forces and build up a very, very, very formidable Soviet ground force. That's my logic, basically. So we are going to accept the armistice. Um, so the Finnish units are going to leave the map. One Finnish unit is dead. It's going to be in the dead pool or dead pile. The remaining Finnish units are going to be placed back over here. Um, and then the sixth was the one that was destroyed, and they're going to basically be put on the pro-axis neutrals, like so. And then the Soviet units, the ones that are in Soviet, or excuse me, are in Finnish territory along the Finland 1940 border are going to return to Soviet positions. And then these units, though, are get to stay put right here. Like so. All right. So yeah, the Soviets just gained some territory. Um, Now we could have definitely kept pushing forward, but I decided against it. Um, I think the Soviets pretty much got what they wanted out of the campaign. The campaign ends about 1 month earlier than historically, right? If we look at when the campaign ended, it ended the 13th of March. And this one ended in late January, so about a month and a half before. Um, hmm, I'm thinking. I mean, we still have one more turn of favorable weather. Why not go for it? Why not go for it? I don't know. This would definitely be if I was doing this live. If I was doing like a stream, this is definitely a question for my audience. Should I conquer Finland or should I not conquer Finland? So you know what? I think this is what I'm gonna do. I just feel like if we're so close to conquering Finland, let's go for it. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll a die. And if it's a low roll, if it's a 1 to 3, the Soviets will accept the armistice. But if it's a high roll, 4, 5, or 6, the Soviets will conquer Finland. Let's see. Okay. All right. The Soviets accept the armistice. Okay. All right. So there's that. At least I left it up to chance. I think that's a better way to do it. Yeah. All right. Now I might have to do that when it comes to like big strategic decisions. I may have to just do a die roll to determine what to decide when it comes to diplomatic events. Um, all right, so there's that. Oh, this should be winter icon, by the way. Um, yeah, yeah, we're in January and February, so it's winter. I mean, I don't really use these icons too much, but I try to use them a bit more for the sake of the audience, right? But I kind of have it pretty much memorized. But it is winter. If that hasn't been made clear enough, it's winter. We're switching over to the Axis side, and we're now going to, I think we're going to start wrapping up this video. I'm going to prepare the Axis forces to invade Norway. Um, but, as far as combat goes, there's not going to be too much combat, I don't think. So I think these next few turns are going to go by a little bit more quickly. Let's see. Axis turn, Axis are going to pass. No need to move any units around. Switch over to the allies. Any moves that the allies want to do? I don't think so. Nope. We'll now switch over to February. February production. Let's see. No reinforcements for the allies. They're at 29 production. We're going to go ahead and build up militia unit in Gibraltar. Now we're at 26. That costs 3. We're going to go ahead and build up this French infantry units. build up pretty much all the French units. That's the idea. Um, so now we're at 22. Um, with the remaining 22, we're going to build up this infantry unit here, as well as this one here. And we're now down to 14. We can only build up one French cadre, or one French step. So the remaining 14 are obviously going to be spent for the British. Um, I think I'm going to want to build up this HQ. And now, I have 4 left. And with that remaining 4, go ahead and build up this unit here. Basically prepare groups for North Africa. That's the idea. See, there's that Mediterranean marker. If the Mediterranean front opens up, I want to have a not only a British expeditionary force in France, but I want a MEF, a Mediterranean expeditionary force prepared as well. And that's kind of the idea of these 2 units located in Bristol. And they also kind of act as a strategic reserve as well if the Germans decide to invade London or invade uh, the British Islands. Of course, we're assuming that France falls, right? Um, so the British could try to reinforce, send more units into France, but I think we're just gonna stick to what we have for now. All right, so that is the Allied production. Switch over to German production. And now we have, wow, these HQs are full strength? Since when? Huh. Anyways, the Germans are at 45. So we'll build 5 there, that's 40. Build this guy up. Now we're down to 30. I'm going to build up these militia units. Each one costs 3 apiece, so that's 6. So we're now from 30 down to 24. Now I can build up 6 infantry. So we'll go ahead and do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and then build these guys up. Uh, hmm. Let's see. I guess we'll build these guys up here. 5, 6, like so. Yeah, so we have how many? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 armored corps. How many divisions? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 divisions. Let's put this unit here. I'm going to deploy some reinforcements. This unit in Denmark, near Denmark. And this unit's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'm going to start deploying units into the Eastern Front. I just need 4 units over here, pretty much. And then this militia units, I guess we could put it in Rostock. I actually want to put it in Hamburg. Dang it. Dang it. So I'm gonna have to switch some units around here. We're gonna move 1 unit there, 1 unit there. Um, Danish units. Yeah, we definitely have some moves to do. And then in March we have 2 more units. No, so I think this unit, I'll put it in Poznan. Keep it on the Western Front. Yeah. And then that's it. That's it for the German production. We'll now switch over to the Soviets. Fascinating. Just fascinating group. We are in February 1940, so no Soviet reinforcements. We have 36 production. We're going to go ahead and just build up. Actually, no, we're going to save Soviet production. Um, yeah, this icon. Yeah, the Finnish surrendered, so we can delete this. This should be on the Eastern Fronts. Had that in February, right? We'll do another 18. That's 36, 54, 72. So pretty much we're going to save Soviet production until May of 1940. In that case, we'll have 90 production points in May. And 90 is just an even better even number, and it's going to be easier to do production in that way. Um, Obviously, it's going to take a longer time to build up our units. But the idea is that I can build up as many HQs as possible and do it all in one go. Do it in like, if you're American, there's a company called Costco. Um, they have a saying, wholesale core. And you basically buy things in bulk and buy things um, cheaper because they're buying things in bulk has a lower cost. I believe the lower cost is a logistical cost, and or cause if you're Marxist. And so, since we are playing as the Soviet Marxist communists, that is the Soviet Union, or excuse me, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, um, it makes sense that we focus on that wholesale kind of logistical, proceeds because that's how they operated when it came to a lot of things. They had a very unique economy in that sense, or economic theory perhaps, which I'm not too familiar with, but anyone who is familiar with Marxist economics, please comment below. Please provide some insight to the audience on how that works, or maybe direct us to some videos or some documents or something that we can read, books perhaps, because that's going to be the overall strategy that I try to employ with all the factions, but notably with the Soviets, is this kind of uh, economy at scale sort of approach to production. This game obviously has a very simplified production system, but it's insightful. I think this game, the way the Soviets play in this game, as it is the case in most games, Soviet play style is very complex and very unorthodox. Is the best way I could put it. You would think the Soviets have a numerical advantage, but they really don't. That's probably the most notable feature, number one. And number two, the Soviets do have cheaper units. So it does incentivize a certain playstyle in a way. But it's not as you think that that lower cost of production is a huge advantage, but it's almost like a necessity for the Soviets when fighting the Germans, just because of how powerful the German army really is in this game. And I've also experienced that when playing Europe and Gulf as well. But for any of you more advanced war gamers, yeah, please, I'm curious to know how is the Soviet playstyle? What are your thoughts on the Soviet playstyle in your games? So yeah, let's continue. Um, we're gonna pass on Soviet production. All right, so that's pretty straightforward. Um, I think we're going to pass on the German turn as well for this turn. And then we're going to pass on the French and the British as well. So nothing's going to really happen this turn. And I think we're also going to pass on the next fortnight as well. And I'm going to confirm that. Just looking at the Allies. Yeah, there's nothing I really want to do here. If I look at the Soviets, or excuse me, the Wehrmacht, nothing I want to do here as well. So yeah, we're going to pass. Um, yeah, we're going to pass. We'll now switch over to March, and we'll start the turn with Allied production, and then still follow the sequence of Allied, Axis, then Soviet production, because the Soviets still have the initiative, presumably, on the Eastern Front. It is March, and if you can see here, it's a die roll of either odd, it's going to be mud, or even, it's going to be snow. So we'll see. But Allied production, we're at 29 production still. Any reinforcements that we get? March, boom. Another French armored division or armored corps. We're going to build up this Gibraltar units. So we're going to be down to 26. I kind of want to focus building up the British. I was going to say focus on British HQs, but that's not going to be the case because we still want to build up this infantry. We're going to build up this armored infantry unit for the French. So now we're at 26 down to 22. Build up 2 more infantry. We're now down to 14. And then with 14 remaining, I kind of want to build up HQ. Keep building up the HQs. And I forgot to do the February diplomacy for the Allies. But basically, the next diplomatic event is a Norway expedition prepared. Um, and if we look at what that rule is, allies can declare war on Norway despite foreign war and without committing betrayal. So presumably they could have declared war on Norway in February 1940. The reason why we're not going to declare war on Finland, or Norway rather, is because it gives the well, first of all, we didn't have a British expeditionary force prepared. That's the main problem. But now we do. Now we do. And now that we're in March, we're gonna do another we're gonna do another Allied diplomatic event, which says, oh no, I'm sorry. So the last one was Norway, Finland expedition proposed, and it says Norway is demoralized and ambivalent, making it a lot easier to invade. It may surrender. Its units repulse allies weakly and may capitulate in effect to them. But we can't actually declare war on Norway without suffering a diplomatic event penalty. So we're going to avoid doing that. And I'm just saying that, but it is in the rulebook. And now the one that we're trying to do is Norway Expedition. The requirement is NP. We'll roll for that. And we got it. And now we can declare war on Norway um, without being penalized um, by the phony war restrictions. So it is possible that the Allies can get to Norway first. That's the main point that I'm trying to make. And we have 4 more production points left. I guess I'll go ahead and just build up this unit here. Keep a strong unit near Britain. But obviously this 13th Mech Corps should be built up as well. definitely should be built up. Now I could cancel this militia build. No, no, I will wait for the next turn to do that. All right. That's that with ally production. Switching over to Axis production. Um, we have 45 production points. I'm going to build 5 here with this mech unit, or mountain core unit rather. Delete this. Now we're down to 40. I'm going to build up this HQ. Now we're down to 30. Then we're going to build up these militia units down to 24. We have 24 left to build up. Trying to make sure. Yeah. Build up this Danish unit. Or it's not Danish, but it is a unit that's going to be deployed into Denmark. So that's 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, and I have we'll build up this infantry units, or this mech units. 4, 5. That costs 2. It's the equivalent of 2 infantry, and I have 1 more infantry unit that I can build up. But the thing is, I don't have any more infantry units to build up. They're all strong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I gotta count that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay, we have 19 units on the Western Front. Though we're good. Actually, I think the historical setup said 21. 21 infantry units. The problem is that the remaining 4 units that I have, they have to be deployed in Prussia. I want to make sure, I kind of want to have this area occupied with more units. So I have 4 more production points left, and I don't know where to put it. Hmm. Guess I'll go ahead and just build it this 38th Infantry Corps. Build it right there. This is not the most efficient way to set it up. I already know that, but I'm not really sure how else to do it. I counted 19 corps on the Western Front. We're short of 21. We're short of 2. Here's 1 more. Maybe this one has to be sent to the Western Front as well. Yeah, I might have to send that unit to the Western Front. Leaving us with this Mountain Corps. I don't think I'm going to be able to transfer this Mountain Corps to the Western Front. That was my plan. But right now, the priority is to make sure that these 4 areas are occupied with German infantry. All right. That concludes German production. Some reinforcements. Put 1 unit in. Yeah, we'll put it in Mannerheim. Or is that Mannheim, not Mannerheim? And then this 42nd Corps can go in Königsberg, like so. And then these three units are going to yeah, basically fill up these other areas. That's the idea. All right. As far as diplomatic events go, we have a new diplomatic event for the Axis. It's a very special one, and it's called DS Denmark Submits. Um, and the way it works is, first of all, it has to be a dry month on the Western Front. If we look at the Western Front, um, it's now March, so it's dry. So we can change this to dry. I guess we can roll for weather on the Eastern Front, and it's going to be snow still for this fortnight. Allies have NX. Um, or phony war, or France defeated. And right now the phony war has taken place. And it's always, but basically Denmark becomes Axis controlled. Um, and Swedish compliance begins. And then the special rule called the Vesa Surprise in effect if declaration of war Norway next Axis turn and phony war in effect. And the way it works, it's a really interesting rule. But basically, the Axis briefly get naval supremacy in the Northern Seaway, and naval supremacy grants you to launch amphibious invasions at twice the range. And so typically an amphibious invasion takes place. I've explained this in other videos, but amphibious invasions take place across one sea area, but now you can do it across two sea areas. That's the idea. And so we have extended range. And so it's going to play a role in the invasion of Norway very well. So anyways, um, we're going to create a marker for that diplomatic event. It's going to be March 40. It's going to be called DS. Denmark submits. And now Denmark becomes part of Germany, or becomes Axis controlled. And then Sweden has compliance, which is kind of like cooperation, which is a special rule when it comes to neutral powers. But basically, they gain production. So they're going to gain a total of 4 production points on this turn. So from 45 now to 49 production points. And um, now we are ready to prepare an invasion of Norway. And so I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to wrap up this video here. And the next video is going to involve us occupying Denmark, and then also invading Norway. I think what I might do is do the first fortnight, occupy Denmark, and then end the video in the middle of a fortnight, or in the middle of a month, so that we can see the invasion take place, um, like right off the cuff. But I think maybe for the sake of structure, we don't do that. Um, I'm not sure. I'm open to suggestions on figuring out how to do this. Um, but I'm thinking yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Even though it kind of breaks the structure of the timeline, it just makes more sense from like a historical standpoint, the structure of events, and that's something that I'm trying to figure out. The artistic side of me tells me to occupy Denmark right now, and then save the invasion of Norway for the next video. But the scientist in me tells me let's stop here and stick to a much more structured kind of calendar based, system. And I think in the last video series, I definitely stuck to the kind of more scientific approach. But I'm still trying to figure out like which method is better, which methodology makes more sense. And I think my intuition tells me that the best approach is learning how to combine both, which requires more focus, in my opinion, and requires one to be better organized with their documentation. So, for example, the log files have to be better organized. But I think in the long term, it might be worth it to do it that way. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to do the first 4 nights, and a little bit outside of my comfort zone here, but I think we should do it. And the way we're going to do it is I'm going to go ahead and activate, I guess we'll activate OKH. And what we're going to do is move some units into Denmark, 2 units in particular. First of all, we're going to move this unit here, 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. We're also going to move this militia unit, 1, 2, oh, let's put the strategic movement there, this one too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now we're going to basically have 2 units occupying Denmark. That's 2 strategic moves. Another 2 moves I'm going to do is I'm going to swap this 18th Mountain Corps with this militia corps, basically. So that's 3, 4. 3, 4 strategic moves. Okay. And then I have 2 left, right? Got to figure out which militia units do I want to move around. Um, and I think, let's see. I think we'll go ahead and maybe move this mech units, armored unit rather, forward. That's 1. Kind of a redundant move. Don't think we really need to do that. Yeah, no, we'll go ahead and do that. 1. And then I got 1 more strategic move left. I think I was originally planning to send this unit to the Eastern Front, but I think we're going to keep it on the Western Front. Yeah, I think this unit will be sent over to the Western Front. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put in the rear. And so that's 6 strategic moves, 5 of which are rail moves. This one is just mobilizing this infantry unit, or armored unit rather. And yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. Um, I feel like it's redundant to have 2 units here in stacked up in Freiburg and Stuttgart. I think it's a bit redundant. Those units are better off being placed somewhere in the north. Um, but I think we're gonna have to just make do with what we got for now. And we'll deactivate OKH. I think we're gonna leave OKH there. And now we have Denmark occupied, and now we've got all these units in position to invade Norway. So very nice. Um, Now, technically, it was winter, so the Soviets were to actually go first. But since the Soviets don't have really many HQs right now, they passed effectively. Now, if we switch over to the Allies, now this is the opportunity that the Allies have. This is the window of opportunity that the Allies have to invade Norway before the Axis do. The problem with invading Norway, in my opinion, by the Allies, is that if you're going to invade Norway, you want to make sure you occupy Norway with enough troops. And so if we're going to invade Norway and Norway's going to become an Axis power, first of all, we're not able to. We would have to go and try to land in Oslo. But Oslo at the present moment is a Axis-controlled body of water. So right now the Allies have naval supremacy, which is indicated by these markers over here. Right now this is not correct. The Allies have the Middle Seaway and the Southern Seaway, both available. Neither side controls the Northern Seaway. In fact, we can use another marker that's a little bit cooler. Allied naval control. Here we go. That's Axis naval control. Here we go. The idea is that if we try to invade, go for the capital, right? Because we only have one expeditionary force, right? We have one corps, right? This Northern Expeditionary Force, which is one corps comprised of about 4 divisions of British troops, 3 divisions of British troops, 3 to 4. Um, if we decide to go for Oslo, first of all, we could look at the Norwegian defensive strength, and you can see that they have one step at most. So their defense is pretty low. So there is a chance that they can surrender. There's also we gotta also keep in mind that we rolled that dice. If I pull up the rule book again, the its units repulse ally units weakly and may capitulate or defect to them. So that's 7.61 and 7.7. So let's check out those rules real quick. I have to brush up on those rules myself. If you made it this far and you're interested in this as much as I am, thank you for being so interested in World War II history. Now we're looking for a rule that talks about ambivalent nations repulse assaults only on a die roll of 1. So it's a very weak die roll. In dry weather river assaults, each 1 or 2 rolled repulses 1 attacking unit. Oh, okay, no. But it's only die roll of 1, so the chances of them repulsing is very low. And then there's also a capitulation. They repulse enemy assaults on a die roll of 1, and their units capitulate and are eliminated in reaction to certain allied combat die rolls. If the allies roll a 1 to 2, basically Norway capitulates. So there's a very high chance, there's a 1 in 3 chance that Norway surrenders to this allied landing if they go for Oslo, which is really interesting. So there's that as well. Something else to point out though is that the body of water called Skagerrak, if I'm pronouncing that right, Skagerrak, Skagerrak. Let's see. Yes, Norwegian.
Skagerrak.
Skagerrak. Right now, it is Axis controlled body of water, but the Axis do not have naval supremacy. The Allies do. So if we look at the player aid, and we can see the invasion interdiction that would take place for an invasion site, because the this is for the passive player, so this would be the German or Axis player die roll. If they roll a 1, they're going to repulse. So because there's 3 dice though, that the Axis get to roll. So what is the probability that they score a hit of rolling a 1 with 3 dice? And I don't know the actual probability there, so I'm gonna have to ask ChatGPT again, because I'm gonna ask ChatGPT this question: what is the probability of rolling a 1, a result of 1 for 3 6-sided dice? Let's find out. If I had to guess, I would guess something like a 1 in 3 chance, right off the top of my head. Because it's 1 in 6, 1 in 6, 1 in 6. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. No, to see, it's saying all 3 dice are 1. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I could calculate. What's the probability of rolling 3 ones? It's 1 in 216th chance. Very low chance. But what's the probability of at least one die shows 1? And then so you roll the probability of not getting 1. Huh. Oh, probability of not getting 1. Oh, okay. That's 5 is 6. 5 over 6 to the power of 3, because there's 3 dice. 125 over 216, that's about a 50% chance. It's about a 50% chance of not getting any 1. So the probability of getting at least 1 die roll is 1 minus that probability, which is 91 in 216 chance. So 91 divided by 216, it's about a 50-50 chance. A little bit less. 40% chance that it's a 40% chance that the allies it's a 40% chance that the Axis repulse that invasion. So the question is, do the British want to gamble with that um, and go for Norway? It's an interesting question. I'm thinking no. I'm thinking if we had, well, we actually do have expeditionary force here, some militia units that could be sent over into Norway to occupy Norway, because we have to put pressure on Oslo, and then we need to then send reinforcements to Trondheim and Narvik. And I'm thinking, even if we successfully land, we would have to force them to surrender. It's a very interesting scenario. It's one that I'm really tempted to do. Um, I think we should go for it. The worst case scenario is that we also deny the Germans advantage in having that advantages of that surprise effect, um, right? Um, think we're gonna go for it. Um, I gotta read up on the Vezra surprise, which I gotta find first. And we gotta like dig through this rule book to find it. Here we are in the Northern Front rule book. It's an interesting scenario situation to make a decision on. Um, um, so the Allies have an interesting chance of knocking out Norway. But here's the other thing too, though. If the Allies do fail, the German occupation of Norway will be a cakewalk. It will be a cakewalk. There's no need to even invade Norway by the Axis. So I'm thinking it would be costlier for the Axis if the Axis invade Norway. Um, and so I think I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at that, folks. I think we're not going to invade as much as I really want to. Maybe I leave this up to chance. Mm. Again, if this was a live stream, I would ask the audience, hey, should we invade or should we not invade as the British? This is a very critical situation or scenario to choose from. I'm very hesitant to leave it up to chance because I really don't want to waste British resources on invading Norway only for the Axis to then to dominate later on in the game. But like I say, it's a 40% chance that the Axis repulse the landings, which is pretty high. It's almost a 50% chance. It's a 50-50 chance. And then if we do successfully do that, I mean, we pretty much have to accept the fact that this expeditionary force is going to be a goner. But man, how badass would it be if we did pull it off? It would be like one of the coolest landings of the war, one of the coolest operations of the war. It's a total gamble. But if we fail, Norway will be Axis, and the Germans will just march their troops in, no problem, without breaking a sweat. And so I'm tempted to leave it up to chance, um, playing as the British. But like I say, I'm open to suggestions on what you guys may have. Um, or if I was playing with another player, it would definitely create a much more interesting gameplay, right? But let's see what the dice say. I'm not gonna say that I'm committed to this die roll, but 1 in 3 roll will say the allies don't. Higher die roll the allies do. Ooh, and we get a 4. This game has just really wild dice. That's something that we kind of have to accept. Um, I kind of want to go for it. But my intuition tells me, as much as I want to go for it, it would be wiser to not go for it. So I think we're going to pass on the Allied invasion. Super ambitious, daunting operation. I mean, let's do some theoretical dice roll. Yeah, boom. They would have scored a 1. It would have been repulsed. The Axis would have full control of Norway without even breaking a sweat, and the Axis would have occupied Norway. So yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. All right, so that concludes the Allied turn. We'll now switch to the next 4 knights. The Soviets are going to pass. Well, let's do die roll, and it's still snow. Um, Soviets are going to pass. We'll now switch over to the Axis, and now we have the opportunity to invade Norway as the Axis. And so this is where I think I'm going to wrap up the game here. I'm going to wrap up the game file here, um, and save it for the next video. I think it'll be really interesting. I think you guys will find it more enjoyable if we save the video, start the video fresh with a new invasion. And so if you made it this far, salute to you for, thank you for your service, or better yet, more practically put, thank you for putting in the energy to study history and to study military history and to also study the theory of warfare as a war gamer. And thank you for enjoying it. Thank you for learning. Thank you for being a humble learner. And, thank you for tuning in. Absolutely. So I will see you in the next video. Do take care, Wargamers, and we'll be in touch. Peace out.